Welcome back to the Unbreakable Mind podcast, where we explore stories, strategies, and breakthroughs that help people rise above life's toughest challenges. Today's guest is someone whose life and work truly embodies transformation, resilience, and purpose. Dr. John Giordano is a pioneer in holistic addiction treatment. He's a leader in mental health and someone who has turned personal recovery into a lifelong mission to help others heal from founding a treatment center with just $300. Okay. Did you hear me? He founded it with $300 and built a multi-billion-dollar facility, and his journey is nothing short of extraordinary. With over 4 decades of personal recovery, and nearly as many years helping others, Dr. John Giordano brings a deeply human, whole person approach to healing, addressing not just addiction, but the mind, body, and spirit. Welcome back to the podcast, John. I am so happy to have you back.
Thank
You
you,
look
Crystal.
so good from the last time I seen you. You actually look younger than you did.
I sleep in formaldehyde. No.
You
Well,
look
it's not $1 billion. I started with $300 and we turned it into, in 2012, we sold it for 45 million.
okay.
How did that happen? I have no clue. I'm an inner city kid. I'm a street kid, brought up in the South Bronx in projects, in gangs, a drug addict, selling drugs, doing all of that stuff. Got into recovery, not because I wanted to. My family did an intervention on me. And I always talk about my family because they're a mafia type family. My father was a heroin dealer. My uncle was a hitman for the five families. My grandfather was a Shylock. Those are people that loan you money. If you don't pay, you'll pay one way or the other. And my uncle threw my wedding when I was 20. And the caterer insulted him in front of my family. And so we killed him the next morning.
Are you kidding me?
Uh-uh.
Wait
So,
a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. Let's back up. So you were at a wedding.
no, it was my wedding.
It was your wedding,
Right.
and the caterer insulted your
My,
family,
my
your uncle,
uncle.
and you killed him the next day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Well, it's in my book, The Kid from the South Bronx Who Never Gave Up. That's
okay.
my life story, how I got molested when my father went to jail when I was 8. I got molested when I was 8 and a half. I got molested again by a babysitter when I was 9. I was in gangs. All of those different things that happened to me. So, I only went to the ninth grade. I quit school. And I wrote the book to show people no matter what happens to you in life, you can be successful if you take the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And since when I got into recovery, I wanted to help God's kids. I also became a chaplain. I'm a chaplain for the North Miami Police Department. I work with police officers that have been in shootings. I work with guys coming back from war, women that have been raped, molested, and things of that nature. Uh, you know, the problem with treatment today, it's a 70-year-old model
Mm-hmm.
that is outdated and
Right.
doesn't work very well.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why? There's a reason. Because treatment centers are really not running the treatment centers, the insurance companies are. They're telling you what you can do, who can work there, how much time that the client spends, okay, what they're willing to pay and what they're willing not to pay. So I looked at it like my kid almost died from this disease. My wife almost died from it, and so did I. And I got tired of going to funerals. So I looked
Wait a
into
minute. What kind of disease was this?
drug addiction,
Oh, drug
mental health,
addiction disease.
and
Okay.
mental health.
Uh-huh.
My wife's she's a bipolar disorder, severe depression, and tried to kill herself. And my son did drugs, OD'd, and they were putting charcoal down his throat to get rid of the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what it's like to be an addict in recovery now, and
Right.
what it's like to be a parent
Right.
with kids that suffer from addiction and mental health. Now, so what I did was I somehow God blessed me and I hooked up with a bunch of scientists and researchers, and I'm currently in over 80 medical and scientific peer-reviewed journals. Most doctors don't even have one. Um, I work with scientists, researchers, geneticists, psychiatrists, the
Mhm.
clinicians from around 12 universities. Now here I am, the kid from the South Bronx with all these people. I would never think in a million years I think somebody's giving me a bunch of stories, okay? But it's true.
Mhm.
And so what I do is I teach people and I share information with people what's missing in treatment. And I'll tell you what's missing. See, we keep saying it's a medical model. It's not.
Mhm.
It's a psychological model they're using, which, if you got a low, now, as women, most women are going to know, relate to this. If you have a low thyroid, I tell you what, let's talk to the thyroid, see how well you do. Okay. All right. So, what most people don't realize that depression and anxiety just doesn't come from trauma and inner child stuff and all of this stuff. It also comes from the body and also your thoughts. Okay. So if you have a low thyroid, you're going to have depression and anxiety. If you have low testosterone or even high testosterone, you can have depression and anxiety. 50% of dopamine and 90% of serotonin, those are the feel good drugs that addicts chase and the feel good things that we manufacture ourselves, comes from the gut. So if your gut's messed up, your stomach, microbiota, whatever you want to call it, okay, your head's messed up. It
Mm.
goes up what is known as the vagus nerve. That's a two-way highway and deposits the dopamine and serotonin in the brain. But if you have a malfunction in that system, you're not getting enough. So now you're going and seeking other things to go get it.
Mm.
Sex, food, drugs,
Right.
alcohol,
Mhm.
all of that stuff.
Right.
Okay. Now, if you have leaky gut, H. pylori infection, hypoglycemia, okay, heavy metal toxicity, closed head injuries, they're all co-contributing factors that can be for depression and anxiety. Now, whoever's listening to this, I do not want you to believe a word I tell you. I want you to look it up for yourself. And you'll see it's in the medical literature, but we're not looking at it. So
Right.
you go to treatment, they throw pills at you because your dopamine and serotonin is crashing because they took away the drugs, which artificially stimulates that. Okay. You suffer from depression and anxiety, of course, because your dopamine and serotonin is in the gutter. So now
Mm.
let's give you SSRIs, pills to
Right.
fix, but we're not going to the root cause of why we have this abnormality.
Mhm.
Now, when you're treating somebody, you have to treat them holistically, globally. The mental part, the emotional part, the
Right.
physical part, the spiritual part.
Mhm.
All of these pieces, we're an integrative system, have to be addressed. Otherwise, we're only treating a section of the problem,
Mm.
and then the other section breaks down. So this is what I lecture out. This is what I talk about. And this is why I wrote my latest books, my life's work, by the way. And this is Holistic Guide to Addiction, Mental Health, and Treatment. It's where science meets recovery. Now, this is on the Amazon. It's not only for people that suffer from mental health or addiction and and things like that. It's also for people that are regular people,
Mhm.
whoever they are. I don't know if they are regular people. Okay.
Right.
But it's, and in there is science. There's anecdotal things in there. Okay. Things that we don't have enough research on, they say.
Mhm.
But personally, I've used all of this.
Right.
It works. But you be the judge. You go read it, look at it, see what the story is. See what you want to do with it. Now, what people got to understand is there's a lot of new technologies coming out that can
Mhm.
really help you. Now they got the weight loss drugs that are coming out that also helps with addiction. Okay.
That
So
new weight loss you talking about this new weight loss drug they got out now that everybody taking? What's the name of this weight loss
well,
drug?
you got trizepatide and you got
Ozempic?
Ozempic. Well, then you got Retrutide, which is a new one that
Oh,
hits 3 receptor sites.
right.
Okay, helps with lowering insulin levels. It helps with fat around the liver,
Mhm,
around the major organs. Okay, and weight loss,
mhm.
and you don't have muscle wasting. Now, Trizepatide has a tendency, if you don't eat enough protein and do it, what you're supposed to do, you can get muscle wasting along with the fat loss, and that's what you don't want to do.
Mhm.
So, and that's why Retrutide is, to me, it's better, but it's still supposedly under investigation. Okay. Um, Most women and most men, believe it or not, have low testosterone. Women get vaginal dryness. They don't want sex. Okay. And that messes up relationships. And they don't realize that the hormones are out of balance. Same thing with guys. That's why they start chasing drugs also, because they have depression and anxiety because they have low test.
Is that because they can't perform in the
No,
bed?
no, that's because they have low testosterone. And that may help, that may also hurt their performance.
Right, but a lot of men don't realize they have low d
No,
that's the
no.
problem.
Most people don't most people don't really look at themselves medically. They go to a doctor, they get a regular blood work, and they don't know what to ask. Most people don't know what to ask,
That's true.
you know?
That's
So you go there, you're relying on a doctor that's antiquated most of the time.
Mhm.
Unless you go to an integrative doctor does integration, alternative medicine doc,
Right.
okay, that finally got what's really happening. Unfortunately, the insurance company don't want to cover the test you need.
Mm.
What people don't understand, and this is my bias, insurance companies, okay, really don't want us to get well. Okay. Pharmaceutical companies don't really want us to get well.
Well, that's how they make money.
Right. Okay. So the pharmaceutical company, insurance companies are hand in hand. Okay. So they keep giving you these medications to keep you alive, to keep you well. Okay. But
Right.
what kind of quality of life are you living? Getting older, and I'm going to be 80 in 4 months.
You don't look
Getting
80 at all.
Well, I don't feel 80, I don't look 80, and I work out. I do what is known as HIIT training, high intensity training, 4 days a week.
Mhm.
I eat pretty good. Sometimes I don't eat too good. I'm not perfect. Okay. I drink enough water. I take peptides. Peptides is the new thing everybody's talking about and doing. Okay.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of things people could do. Now, the problem with people taking vitamins, okay, which the pharmaceutical companies say, well, they're unregulated. How do you know what's working, what's not working? And they're right.
Mhm.
But there is a way to find out. First of all, you take what is known as a micronutrient test. Okay, what does that mean? That means to see where you're deficient and where you got too much of. Then you do a methylation test. Methylation means, am I absorbing these vitamins? Okay, or am I not absorbing them? And then you got a heavy metal test. Okay, because if you got heavy metals, mercury, antimony, arsenic, all these things that are in our food and in some nutrients and in a whole bunch of other things, okay, that messes your neurotransmitters in your brain.
Mm.
So all of this stuff, most people don't know about. And that's why I'm on a podcast with you. I lecture all over the world. I've been in Budapest, I've been in Taipei, Taiwan, I've been in Chicago, New York, California, everywhere. And when I get up, when I'm done, everybody comes around me and go, you know, Dr. Juno, we never thought of this. I said, well, how can you treat somebody partially. Doesn't work that way.
Mm.
So this is what we talk about. This is what I do, and I help a lot of people. Once they start seeing for themselves, not because Giordano tells them, but when they start doing the investigation of what we're talking about, they
Mhm.
go, "Oh my god, I never knew this. Oh my god, I never knew that." Well, how can you know it? Nobody's telling you. So you see, you're doing God's work, and so am I right now. I'm helping God's kids.
Yeah.
And without spirituality, I'm not talking about religion now. I'm talking about spirituality. What
Mhm.
is that? Okay, my view of the world, learn to be kind instead of right. Help people less fortunate than you. Do your best not to lie, cheat, or steal, or hurt anyone, or hurt yourself. Simple things. Reach out, help people less fortunate than you.
That's true.
And this is what we need to do. Okay? It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what religion you are. Last time I checked, we're supposed to be all of God's kids. Why are we separating people? Don't make sense to me.
Not at all.
Now, in 1965, I'm also a Grand Master in the martial arts, Black Belt Hall of Fame, five-time national karate champion, all that other stuff too. And I taught in Miami, Liberty City, and Overtown. Liberty City and Overtown is the African American community, the Black community. Okay. In 1965, a white guy would never go into that community because they would be afraid. I went in there, all right, because most of my black belts are from that community. As a matter of fact, in 1981, 82, I helped revitalize Liberty City and Overtown. If they go to my website, John, the letter J, Giordano.com, they can see I threw the James Brown concert in 1981, 82, right after the riots,
This is
because
in
nobody
Miami.
wanted to go into the city.
Is this in Miami? Liberty City?
Yeah, Miami.
Okay. Mhm.
And so what I did was it was for Flea Market USA, right? And believe it or not, this is what I was using. So that's another story. But anyway, they wanted a grand opening that really would make a difference. And I says, okay, well, we need a theme. And the theme was we were revitalizing Liberty City and Overtown so people can come into the community again and shop because they were afraid.
Mhm.
So what I did, I said, I want to invite President Reagan to the opening of the flea market with James Brown. Everybody laughed at me. They says, I don't think the president's going to come to a flea market. But I sent the letter anyway. 2 weeks later, I got the letter back. And it says, sorry, the president, due to scheduling, he can't come, but he's sending somebody. So he sent Carrie Meeks. Carrie Meeks, Senator Meeks now, okay, was the state representative at the time. And, they thoroughly checked you out. I promise you. They don't just walk in and say, how you doing? I'm from the White House, you know? And she looked all around, checked everything out, saw the work I was doing in the community with the kids and all of this stuff, even though I was using
Mhm.
drugs, okay, but I wasn't deep into my addiction. And
Right.
back then in the 60s, that's what it was like.
Right.
So and she went to the Martin Luther King Foundation and they presented me with the Martin Luther King Award on stage in front of 60,000 people.
Mm.
It was a
Wow.
free concert. Now, when I tell people that, they go, yeah, 60,000. I said, okay, go to my website and go look because you'll see as far as your eye can see in every direction, people, shoulder to shoulder. We had a giant parking lot
Mhm.
and it was everywhere, behind the stage, in front of the stage, alongside everybody. It was an incredible concert. Everybody, all the police departments, Hialeah, Miami, North Miami, they all worried about it's going to be a riot. because I mixed Caucasians, Hispanics, and blacks all together in one place.
Wow.
Nothing happened. But we got a little lucky also. God intervened because the last note on James Brown's guitar, it poured rain and everybody dispersed. So that's some of the stories, that I share with people so they can relate to see that no matter who you are, no matter what you do, okay, you can really help God's kids and make a difference in this world.
Mm,
Nope. That's
that's
what I share.
Let me ask you something. You have over 40 years in recovery. What
41 years. Yep.
how many years?
41.
41 years in recovery. What was the turning point that changed your life forever?
Well, remember I told you who my family was.
Mhm.
Okay. Drug dealers, hitmen, all kinds of stuff. They did an intervention on me. They said I needed to go to treatment. I'm wondering who's doing an intervention on them. But my mother said she'll never talk to me again. And my mother wasn't like that. So I figured, let me go into treatment, get everybody off my back, take a break. That's what I did. All
Right.
right. I'm in group and I'm looking now. I used to do collection work for the smugglers. I used to go to Colombia and Cartagena and teach one of the cartels all their bodyguards self defense. I mean, I did a lot of crazy stuff. Never got arrested. Don't even have a misdemeanor. I don't know how that happened, but it happened.
Right.
And I don't know. I just kept going. And
Wow.
I'm in the treatment center, and I'm saying, "What do I do here?" I was trying to leave every 5 minutes. I was getting out of there. I never even unpacked my bags. I used to pull clothes out of my bags,
Mhm.
like to wear. And every time I winded up to the elevator to leave, they would pull me back and say, "John, why don't you just talk about it?" Anyway, I remember I went in around Christmas time, so I wanted to go home
It
for Christmas Eve,
Mhm.
and they said no. Well, if you want to know how well an addict's doing, just tell them no.
Right.
Okay. So I went crazy, yelling and screaming. I ran in my room. I punched the door.
Mhm.
Okay. And I remember my counselor telling me, maybe you need to pray,
Mhm.
get on your knees. I said, listen, you mean God don't hear me if I'm not on my knees? He says, how about humility? So it just stuck in my head. So
Right.
I went to get down on my knees because I was in a lot of pain. I started to clear up from the drugs
Mhm.
and things. I'm realizing all the people I hurt. Now I hurt myself and everybody, my
Right.
children. And I couldn't put my knee down. Now, that may sound crazy to people, but I had to push my knee down. Then I had to push my other knee down. I said, look, I don't know what's out there. God, somebody, something. Please
Right.
just take this away. I'll do anything you want.
Right.
And my anger, my despair left like it never, ever was there.
Mm.
I even tried to get it back. It wouldn't come back.
Mhm.
That was my spiritual awakening and treatment. And I still feel that today.
Wow.
And I went back to school, went to college, did everything I needed to do. And here I am, live and in color. you know.
Yeah. What did rock bottom look like for you though? And how did it
Well, I was getting really out of control. I was hitting people and I was using a lot of drugs. It was, it doesn't start off that way,
Right.
but it winds up that way. And it was getting worse and worse and worse. And my family saw it and they said, you got to get some help. You're out of
Mm.
control. And here I am.
So, when you were doing all these drugs, was it because you were trying to cover up the pain from all the things that you experienced as a child? Because you said you were raped or molested by.
Yeah, now I'm a therapist for all these years. I've been treating people for 39 years. It's just that I realize what it was.
Mhm.
Okay. Back then, no, I had no clue.
Right.
No clue. I was just looking to just take a break. I wanted a rest from life.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with anybody or any of my problems.
Mhm.
I want to have a good time, but it wasn't a good time anymore, you know? And
Right.
that's what it ended up being.
Yeah. Well, you
But
know what?
today I realize, what it was.
Mhm.
Because I'm medicating all these feelings I didn't know how to deal with, all the pain, shame, and the guilt, okay, that I figured it'll never change. Nobody will ever, forgive me. And, I can't even forgive myself either. And on
Mhm.
and on and on and on. You get all that poor me stuff and playing victim and
Right.
getting into it. See, when I learned in recovery was those were my lessons. There are no failures in life, only lessons.
Mhm.
And there are no mistakes. All of that stuff helped me to become the person I am today and still helps me
Mhm.
grow. You know what I learned in life? You know what I know, Crystal? I
What's that?
don't. That's what I know. I don't know.
Mhm.
And I realized the blessings I have. I have my eyes. I have my ears. I can talk. I can walk. I can use my hands. I mean, we forget about that stuff.
That's true.
We take all that for granted.
That is so true.
We worry about not having a car, a place to live. Well, try doing it without. I used to teach the blind and the handicapped.
Mhm.
Most courageous people I've ever met. But try living without that stuff. Okay, you worried about a car?
I went through that already. I went through that. I back in 2021 when I had my accident, I couldn't use my legs. I had to learn how to walk again. So
Right.
like you said, you don't appreciate these things, these simple things until you lose them, you know? And I'm gonna tell you something. After I had my accident back in 2021, I was in the hospital for a month. And then they transported me to a nursing home for rehab. And, during that time I was in rehab, I had to learn how to walk again, and I would just look around at people who was walking, and I used to say to myself, "Man, they lucky they can walk." So like you said, you don't appreciate these little simple things until you lose them.
That's right.
And thank God I was able to walk again. It took a lot of work to get to where I am now today, but when you lose those things, you don't realize how appreciative it is to have it, you know?
Well, that's what I teach. You see, I got 2 hip replacements. I know what it's like. When
Right.
I started my recovery journey, I was homeless.
Mhm.
You see, because I got divorced, and a friend of mine lent me a room, another friend of mine lent me a bicycle,
Right.
and a jar I used to put quarters in when I had quarters.
Mhm.
I know what it's like not to have. And I
Right.
remember what it was like, I couldn't even put my underwear on.
Mhm.
So when you start realizing that God gave you a gift, which is called your body, your mind, and your soul and your spirit, okay, it's what you do with that gift is you give back to the creator.
Mhm.
So how well are we doing with that stuff is what you got to ask yourself.
Right.
How am I treating this gift that I have?
Mhm.
So what I always realized was you can't share information with people if you don't live, walk the walk. If you're
That's
going to
true.
talk the talk, nobody's going to hear you. Period. They may hear you, but they won't listen.
Mhm.
Listening's a skill. And the bottom line is that's why I stay in shape. Everything I tell people to do, I do. Now you don't have to do like me. You don't have to be like you can do whatever you want. But
Right.
I don't want to live if I have to suffer all the time. For what reason? If I have, at least I had some kind of control over that. I
Yeah.
had cancer. Know what that's like. I beat it. I had kidney disease I have. I'm beating that too. How? Because I know what to do. I don't listen to some of these doctors. They just want to put your medications that make you sicker than
Yeah.
you
That's
when you
true.
started. I do a lot of research all over the world. Unfortunately, I love my country, but we're like 47th in medical, 37th in education. It's all about money, power, and control, and dividing people. I don't know what happened. This ain't the country I grew up in. I don't know. Maybe I was sleeping when I was younger.
Right.
Okay. But today, nah, this is all about money, power, and control. It's about hurting people, about not being kind, not being no empathy. I mean, it's sad. But you want to know something? I realize everything's happening exactly the way it's supposed to happen in order to create change. And people are sleeping. They're not awake.
That's true.
But hopefully they'll be awake,
That's so true.
you know, and they keep judging this one, judging, like Christ said, okay, who has never sinned cast the first stone. Well, guess what? Nobody threw the stones at the girl.
How did your upbringing in the South Bronx influence your path?
Well, it was really rough. Like I had to sneak home at night because my house was right on my apartment was right on the main street. So
Mhm.
being in an opposing gang, I didn't want anybody to know where I lived. So I had to run through the backyards and climb up on the roof to get to my where I lived. It was really rough.
Mm.
I was in an Italian gang, Irish gang, Hispanic gang, black gang. I was they made me the war counselor because I knew everybody.
Mm. So
So,
what
you
so
know,
what so what kept you going in the early days of recovery when things, felt uncertain, you know?
when I was in
It's
recovery,
Yeah.
early recovery,
What kept you going? Because,
you
when you
don't want
go
to know the
through.
truth. I really don't know. I'll tell you
Mhm.
why. I didn't like the meetings. I didn't like the people in the beginning. All I did was look at negative stuff. I didn't want to join a new religion, I said,
Mhm.
but I kept going. And one day, a year later, my therapist said, I said, listen, man, this is bullshit. Excuse my expression.
Right.
I don't really feel that different. And he said, did you use today? I said, no. He said, it's already different. And I
Mhm.
looked at him and I said, you know what? You're right. I'm not doing what I used to do. So I kept going.
Mm.
Things were rough. My mother died. My grandmother died. All the people that were close to me, everything. I got betrayed by people. Um, I had a million reasons, not that you need any to use. Okay. And I didn't use. So I have 41 years of continuous recovery. How in the world that happened? One day at a time, one moment at a time, one step at a time, you know?
One choice at a time.
That's it, man.
Yep.
Sometimes it were poor choices.
Yeah.
It's the way life works. Nobody makes it perfect. You find anybody perfect, let me know. I want to break them.
That is so true. You have to have a
You
strong
know,
mentality. To go through the things that you went through in your life, have a strong mentality, to get through a lot of the things that a lot of people go through in their childhood, because so many, a lot of people experienced a lot of trauma and some really crazy things in their childhood, and you have to really be strong minded and be willing to um, actually get the help to get through it. But a lot of people don't understand why their behavior is the way that it is. And that's where self-awareness comes in because You have to be educated with what you're going well, and that's the thing. I had to be educated. This is the reason why I started this whole mental health platform with the podcast and writing the book and, speaking publicly because you have to really be self-aware and educated in order to know or realize that you have a behavior that's stemming from something that might have happened in your childhood, you
You
know?
have to be willing to get help. See, that's the
Exactly.
problem, okay?
Right.
Addicts are not meant most people don't wanna go and get the help, okay? Because
And
they figure
that comes from a lack of education though,
well,
because
'cause,
people
I think also is, uh, when usually a lot of people have low self-esteem. I deal with multimillionaires, okay?
right.
They're insecure, lonely, empty, and they don't trust anybody. Not
Mhm.
all of them, but most of them
Mhm.
that come to therapy with me. I deal with street kids, same stuff, different angle. See, when you don't have money, you worry about making it. And when
Mm,
you have it, you worry about losing it. So
mm,
you never really move too far off the stick.
mm.
Okay. So, when you've been through, to me, my martial art training helped me tremendously. Discipline, focus, being able to take pain. See, I studied martial arts and I started in 1962 when it was really a martial art, not just a sport like today. So I learned from three grandmasters. My teacher was a Marine DI, which is a drill instructor.
Mhm.
And I mean, as they say in the street, homie don't play. Okay. He
Dude.
really like did it to us.
Mhm.
We like in the summertime, you would close the doors and the windows and we would work out. And if you threw up, you had to pick it up and put it in your uniform and take it off the mat. Wintertime, everything was open, steam's off, everything's off, running around the neighborhood in the ice cold. If it's snowing, running through the snow, barefooted with no shirt on. And I mean, we trained doing knuckle walk, duck walk, all kinds of crazy exercises and stuff like they do in the Marines. And that's the kind of training I had. And I went south, okay? And that's what happened to me. I went in the wrong direction with all that training. And even though you know the difference, it doesn't matter if you don't follow the truth of what you need to do,
That's true.
you know. And fortunately, God, as far as I'm concerned, God intervened on me.
Mhm.
Even with the wonderful family that I had that was crazy too, okay,
Mhm. Mhm.
they intervened on me.
Mhm.
And without that, I probably would have been dead.
Wow. Wow. So in your experience, what do you think most people understand about addiction in your experience?
Well, if you have to learn to get you see, here's the problem. What they teach in college is all wrong as far as I'm concerned,
Right.
okay? They teach therapists not to disclose who they are. But how the hell am I gonna be in rapport with you if I don't know who you are? Don't even
That
make any sense.
that don't.
Okay, but I understand where they're coming from. They don't wanna make it all about them, okay? It's supposed to be about the client,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean you eliminate that rapport. I mean, when I sit in some you see, mental health people and substance abuse people used to run the groups and run everything. They call CAP, Certified Addiction Professionals. Then the insurance people got involved, and they want licensed people to run groups. But they're coming from a different angle. Not that they can't be effective. I don't want to give that impression, but perfectly honest with you, they're not as effective as somebody who's also an addict and who also is trained. completely different ballgame.
Mhm.
I mean, you don't know my pain unless you've been in my pain.
Exactly.
Now you could talk about my pain, okay, like you read out of a book,
But you haven't
but baby,
experienced it.
if you're not walking in my shoes, you don't know what it's like,
That's true.
okay? And everybody can argue about that all they want. But
Right.
the bottom line is I do a group and you could tell they're at the edge of their seat and they're listening.
Mhm.
I watch other people do groups and they're on their phone if they're allowed to have their phone or they're talking or they're sleeping. You don't have them then because remember, you're dealing with a bunch of people that full of shame, full of guilt, full of low self-esteem, don't even know why they don't even know if they want to be there, don't even know if they can do this. You got to catch their attention, man.
That's true.
You know,
And
and
sometimes you might have to switch therapists because if you ain't happy with that particular therapist that you're seeing and you don't feel like they're doing anything to help you, you can always switch and go to somebody else.
well, here's the
But
deal.
but I like
I don't
what you
want to.
said.
I don't want any of my patients or my clients to be addicted to me.
Right.
I'm going to give you the. I'm giving you the roadmap. Go get to your destination. I don't want you hanging out with me. I want you to go do the roadmap.
Do the work.
You got to do the work. You can't be, expecting me to do your work.
That's
I'm
true.
not doing that. I'll guide you, okay, but that's it.
Mhm.
I'll be there for you as long as you're there for yourself.
That's right.
But if you ain't there for you, I ain't there for you either.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, you
So,
gotta
I
make that.
keep it real. My wife tells me, "Go, can't believe some of the things you tell these people." Because she's been in my group. She
Mhm.
says, you know what? People want to hear the truth.
That's right.
They don't want you to pat them on the head and soft soak everything. They want to know the truth. And the truth hurts sometimes.
Yeah. But a lot of
Okay.
people don't wanna hear the truth. But
Now,
in order to grow, you
how are you going to fix it if you don't know what it is,
right.
or you don't recognize it, or you don't deal with it?
Mhm.
You know, you gotta wake up and suit up. Can't just hang out. This is a life and death disease.
Mhm.
It destroys families. It destroys people. It does a lot of things.
It does.
So people feel hopeless and helpless.
Mhm.
Okay, and they keep taking all these medications. Like some people may have to stay on medications. Okay, I'm not against anything. You know what I'm for? Whatever works.
Right. From your
When I do my lectures, that psychiatrist came up to me and goes, "You don't believe in medication?" I said, "Look, you know what I believe in? If it's working, I believe in it. And
right.
if it's not working in it, I believe we have to look at what else is available."
Mhm. How do you think people can begin to identify the root cause of their addiction for those who are listening? Uh, because I've been to the this was years ago. I remember going to a AAA meeting, and when I sat there and listened to everybody talk about all the things they did when they were on drugs and alcohol. But they didn't get to the root cause of the problem as to why they used the drug and the alcohol, and that's what turned me off about.
Okay, I'm going to help you with that. I think a lot of people feel that way
Mhm,
because what they don't understand, okay, which is normal, okay, they have those 12 steps, okay, that they talk about.
mhm,
The reason for those 12 steps is to unravel all the stuff, okay, so you can become the best version of yourself.
right,
That's what those meetings are for, okay? You get there. Look, you don't hang out in a biker bar if you don't ride motorcycles. You don't hang out in the gay bar if you're not gay, unless you want to pick up somebody,
mhm,
right? So you go to these meetings and you're hanging out with people that are all struggling, and everybody wants to, you know, get through this, you're better off there than not there at all.
Right.
You know, you don't have to buy into everything, but taking a little at a time, see where it takes you. Let me tell you, I'm a street kid. You think for 1 minute I'm going to be in a program for I still go to meetings. I just was in Colombia, okay, because I'm starting to do medical tourism now, okay, to help people in a different way. All
Mhm.
right. I went to a meeting there, met a bunch of great people. I've been all over the world in meetings.
Mhm.
It's an amazing thing. These meetings don't fix you. You fix you.
Mm.
And when you start to understand that the first step was to be you're powerless. I heard that I'm not powerless over anything. I was sure powerless over drugs and alcohol. Kick my butt every time.
Mhm.
So I got to recognize that. Then you had to come to believe in a power greater than yourself. I'm not talking about religion, talking about a God of your understanding. And then as you go down the line and you go down to the fourth step where you purge yourself without bullshitting in plain English or lying or manipulating or leaving out stuff, all the stuff you did, putting on paper. And then talking to somebody on the fifth step about what you wrote. And addicts don't trust anybody because they're not trustworthy. That's a cleansing.
Mhm.
And as you go along and you keep looking at yourself and you're looking at yourself, and the last step is helping people coming out of yourself because addicts are selfish and self-centered. It's all about them, not about anybody else.
Well, that's it.
I don't even want to get into politics, but that's what's going on now.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
yeah, that's because it's the addiction. You want to get high. You want to you want to get so that's why they only think about themselves, you know?
that's right.
That's the main focus.
Listen, there's addiction comes in many flavors,
Mhm.
not just drugs and alcohol, money,
Yeah,
power, and control.
that's true.
People don't get that part. Also comes in whatever stimulates dopamine and serotonin for them because they all have different DNA and RNA.
Mhm.
Eating, food, sex, gambling,
That's true.
internet, videos, all kinds of stuff.
That's true.
Okay.
Mhm.
Work addiction. People, well, I got to work. Yeah. And what are you paying for that? You don't see your
Yeah.
family. Guy said, well, I got to keep my family and nice, you get them in a house and feed them and stuff. And then all they do is work and they come home and all they do is complain and go to sleep.
Right.
Then they turn around, there's no family anymore because you left them out in the cold.
Mhm.
You don't get that part. Called balance in life. You need to have balance. When you're out of balance, you're out of balance. Something's going to fall off.
That's so true. Could you talk about the role nutrition plays in like your healing addiction,
Well,
like the
first
nutrition?
of all, if you look at people that suffer from depression, anxiety, addiction, alcoholism, all these other things, most of the time they don't eat right. Most of the time, uh, they're nutrient deficient,
Right.
protein deficient, volume depleted. They don't drink enough water.
Right.
When you knock the body out of homeostasis, out of balance,
Mhm.
the mind gets out of balance.
That's true.
So, is nutrition important? Yeah, is gasoline for your car important?
Yeah, that's true.
Try putting diesel fuel in your gas car. Let me know how you do. It's fuel. Oh, it's the wrong fuel.
I didn't realize how important having a healthy gut was to your mental health either. I didn't find that out until I had a guest on the podcast who was an expert in gut health. And that, I learned so much on this podcast when I bring different people on like yourself, like experts like you. And what I learned is that you would be surprised of how much information that we lack when it comes to our mental and physical well-being, and because we really don't pay attention to really just doing the research, you
Well,
know.
if you don't have your health, you don't have your wealth.
That's true. I
People pay
always
more attention to, "I gotta get a new car, a new job, new money. I gotta get this, I gotta get that." Well, guess what? If you ain't around, that ain't around either.
What good is it? That's what I say. That's what I say. Um, I used that used to be my and that used to be my focus until I got older, how important your health, your mental and physical health is. And the fact that I had struggled with, depression for a long period of time. And I found out that my mother did and my grandmother did. So, I just, and that was the reason why I wanted to educate myself and learn about mental health. Because a lot of people really don't know anything about it at all. They
No,
don't know anything about,
they don't know where
why
to look.
they react. Most people are out here reacting to things instead of responding to things. And they're
That's why I wrote the book.
yeah.
That's exactly why I wrote it.
And I
They
was
can
one
go in there, they can
I
look.
I was one of them. Like, I used to react to everything. Like, I was the type of person where I would, if somebody said something to me slick, I'd be ready to say something slick back. Or, I just felt like, because, a lot of us grew up in survival mode. So we have that fight mentality, and you're always in that safety zone. And a lot of the times we react to things that really has nothing to do with us, you know? Like at one point I used to take things personal. At one point, I used to take things personal, even on social media. Sometimes, you could see people post something, and you automatically think that person is talking about you, but that person might not be talking about you. They could just be talking about somebody else, or they could be talking about something in general. But because we can probably, um, it triggers people sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, you would think that, okay, is this person saying something about me? Then you're ready to react.
Well, you know why people react, what you're saying? I wanna tell you why, okay? It's real simple. Imagine having a light switch on a wall, okay?
Mhm.
That's supposed to turn on your lights. Would you stand there all day pressing that switch if it didn't turn on the light?
Mm-mm.
No, right?
Right.
Okay. So if it's connected to something, that's what causes you to respond the way it is. So
Mhm.
there's something inside of you, okay, that ain't right.
Right.
And that's why when they talk about something, you react.
Mhm.
But the only way it can have power over you if you give it power.
That's true. That
See,
is
well,
so
most
true.
people don't get that.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is this like if I called you a chair, you would look at me and go, "Well, okay, there's something wrong with this guy. You know, I'm not a chair."
Mhm.
But if I called you something that triggers you inside that you believe is wrong with you,
Mhm.
okay, now you're lit up.
Right. Right.
So that's how you got to look at it. When you got a guy or a girl or whatever, all egotistical, you know
Mhm.
what that's saying? Do the flip side. They're insecure. They want to be seen. They want to be heard because they don't feel like they're enough.
Mhm.
So when you truly got your stuff together, you don't need that validation.
That's true.
You
I
know,
said
you
I,
don't need it.
yeah, I say the same thing. A lot of
My phone
people
keeps going
live
off. Okay.
that is so true. A lot of people live for validation, but you got to understand that if you're not able to celebrate yourself without people celebrating for you, what are you gonna do? I say this a lot about, let's say, like, these a lot of celebrities. And I believe that's why, and I could be wrong, but this is just my opinion. I believe the reason why a lot of people go to drugs and alcohol, especially these celebrities, because they're in the limelight. And when you're getting all this praise from the world and from the media and all this attention, and then when the lights shut off, you're not on the stage no more, no people not praising you no more, then they go into the dumps. And that's something I had noticed about a lot of people who are in the limelight. They cannot take what it's like not to have people praising them like they did before. And that's why it's important not to look for validation from other people. You got to be able to celebrate yourself alone when you're by yourself, when nobody's around.
Well, it's an inside job, not an outside job, number one. And listen, we all like validation.
Yeah,
There's
we do.
nothing wrong with getting validated.
Right.
Okay. Well, what you need to take a look at is that if you need it,
Right.
okay, that's a different story.
Mhm.
Okay. If you get it, okay. You work hard, whatever you do, you deserve it.
Right.
Okay. But the bottom line, I work with a lot of actors also. I've done a lot of, I can't say who they are, but a lot of movie stars that
Mhm.
you would know, believe me.
Mhm.
Insecure, don't feel like enough, and they're only as good as the last thing they did.
Mhm.
And that's what that business is like.
Yeah.
I was in the Beverly Hills Cafe with a friend of mine, and I was sitting at a table with a bunch of actors, costume designers, producers, directors. I wound up doing therapy with 11 people at the table, and they
Mhm.
all were almost exactly alike.
Mm.
Insecure. They didn't know, the lonely, empty.
Mhm.
It dragged it out of them, and they all were looking at each other like, "Who is this guy?"
Right.
But I've been dealing with people like this for so many years. I know just how to go in there,
Right.
you know? And it's apparent, okay?
Mm.
We're just human beings. That's all they are. They're human
Mhm.
beings, just like us, okay? So there's a flashlight, there's a light on them,
Mhm.
you know?
That's
Like
true.
with the lights on, the cockroaches run.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say to someone who feels completely stuck in addiction right now? Because there is a lot of people who might be
What I would
listening.
tell them, go to a meeting and go to treatment.
Mhm.
Get the most you can out of it, and then do the work.
Yeah.
And I gotta run.
Okay. Okay. Well, I want to close. I have one more question before we close out. Looking back, and this is for someone who might be listening. Looking back, what advice would you give your younger self?
What advice would I give my younger self? Keep doing what you did to get to where you are.
Okay.
I wouldn't get people ask me, "What would you change?" You know what I would change? Absolutely nothing,
Mhm.
because everything that happened to me, all the hardships and the successes and whatever, brought me to where I am today.
Okay.
So it's
All
all
right.
part of the journey, man.
That's true. That is so true. Well, John, I appreciate you coming back on. This has been an incredible and powerful, insightful conversation. Your story is a reminder that no matter how far someone falls, transformation is always possible.
That's
And,
right.
and that's a that's a true recovery. You know what I'm saying? It's about rebuilding life, not just breaking habits. And to everyone listening, if today's conversation resonated with you, make sure you share it with someone who might need or need help or hope or guidance as a reminder that change is possible. You know what I'm saying? And remember, an unbreakable mind isn't about never struggling. It's about never giving up.
I still struggle with stuff. Of
Oh
course.
yeah. Well,
If
this is
I'm
a
not if you're not you don't have you're not struggling with stuff, that means you're dead.
yeah. Well, healing is a lifelong thing. It's something you
That's
never
right.
stop doing.
No,
You do this for the rest of your life.
as they say, stuff happens, man.
That's true. That's true. Things happen. We sometimes you might fall, you might get off track, but when you recognize it, you just get back on track again.
That's right. Right now, my brother's dying. He's got a tumor in his head.
Oh, I'm
And
sorry to
it
hear
took
that.
out, and now it's back in the frontal lobes, and he's just I don't know, any week now he should be dead.
Oh, wow. I'm
Nope,
sorry to
you only
hear that.
got listen, life shows up, everything happens exactly the way it's supposed to happen. I cry, I go through my changes about it. That's life,
That's true.
at least I have a life,
Mhm.
at least I'm able to help people and help
Yeah.
myself.
It
So,
gives you so much joy, doesn't it?
yep,
It sure does. It.
it's a better high than any high I ever had.
Tell me about it. Oh my God. Tell me about it. Well, on that note, we'll see you on the next episode. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I hope you enjoyed this episode with John and all the experiences that he
Just
has.
go to
Yeah.
thing,
What is your website?
John, the letter J, Giordano.com
Okay. And also, where can people find your book?
on Amazon.
Okay.
Type in my name, John Giordano, and the books come up. There's got audio and they have regular. But the new book doesn't have audio because it's not written that way.
Okay. Okay. Well, John, it was good seeing you again. It really was.
Likewise, Crystal.
And you look, like I said, you look so much younger than the last time I seen you. And you doing the right thing. So keep up
Do
the
the
good
best
work.
I can.
Yeah, that's
That's all
all
we
we
are
can do.
doing. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's all we can do. One day at a time.
You got it. One moment at a time. Forget the day.
Well, you take care. On that
All
note,
right, babe.
we'll see you on the next episode.
All
You
right.
take
Thank
care.
you.
Uh-huh.
Bye.
Bye-bye.